This evening, we're glad to have Joyce Smick with us this evening, and I'm going to let her tell about herself. We are recording this presentation, so we will post it on our website and Facebook. So if you have any friends you think it might be beneficial to. And just to let you know, we do have Stephen Ministry here, which is a one-on-one ministry to walk with someone through a crisis or a rough time in your life. So if you feel like you would like a Stephen minister, it would be a woman with a woman, man with a man. They have 50 hours of training, and it's just a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm in charge of it here, but I also had a Stephen minister when my son was born. So if you're interested in that, feel free to give me a call in the parish office, and I can talk with you and tell you a little more and get that set up for you. So, okay? So I'll let Joy take over.
Hi, everybody. Karen said my name is Joyce Smick. I've been doing grief counseling for about 20 years. I work for the Modet's Funeral Homes, if you're familiar with them. So I got into it many years ago when I started school. My cousin, who was a funeral director, said, "You should go into grief counseling." And I said, "Oh, no, I don't want to be around all those sad people." And as I went through college, I ended up taking different classes that got me into doing more research projects and things like that regarding grief, and I got an internship position and absolutely loved it. My husband would say, "How can you do that? You go there, you must cry all the time," and that's not the case. Oftentimes we do laugh, we do cry sometimes, but our meetings all aren't crying. Grief isn't all about crying, it's about trying to make a new life. But the first thing I want to talk to you about, or talk with you about, is the fact that probably what you're feeling is normal. Oftentimes people think that there's something wrong with them. They're either crying too much or they're not crying. Those are both things that normal people grieving do. You can cry a lot, you can cry a little, you don't have to cry at all. We all have different grieving styles, and so what you do might be different than what somebody else does. It doesn't mean it's wrong, it doesn't mean it's right. It just means this is who you are. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about some of those grief reactions. We all experience some of the sadness, right? Everybody's pretty darn sad. You have lots of emotions that go into grief, up and down all the time, all day, all night, weeks at a time. So you can have that. You can feel guilt. You can feel anger, all these things. Or you don't have to feel them at all. You might be just kind of catatonic. And you might wonder, wow, this doesn't seem normal. Everybody else is crying. Why me? But it doesn't mean it's not normal. That's who you are. It's your personality. That's how you express things. But it's not that we don't all feel some of those same emotions. So, some of them are physical. Anybody have physical symptoms? Get sick, colds. When my dad died, my mother had a lump in her throat for months. Went to the doctor, nothing's wrong. Continually went to doctor, she had a lump in her throat. That's what her grief reaction was. People get sick, get colds, they have chest problems, they can't breathe, they have a lot of anxiety attack, all physical symptoms of grief. And not everybody gets them, but some do. So I always recommend that if you do have any, to go to the doctor and just get checked out, just to know that it's okay, that you are okay. You know, you don't know, it could be something else. Sometimes you have things that are physical that happen because of what you've done, maybe caretaking. You know, caretaking's a big job. You might hurt yourself physically while you're caretaking for your loved one. I have several people that I've seen that have had to have surgery, rotator cuff surgery, because they were lifting their loved one or things like that. So physically, you want to make sure that you take care of yourself. Emotionally, we talked a little bit about the sadness, the anger, crying, things like that. Those are symptoms most people talk about the most. There's also other symptoms, cognitive symptoms, forgetfulness, can't remember what you did with anything, can't read. You might read a line, 2 lines, doesn't stick with you, you have to watch it again or read it again. Somebody tells you something, you totally forget. There's a lot of forgetfulness. So there's some cognitive things, and a lot of people will think there's something wrong with them. Am I getting dementia? What's happening? It's grief. I remember after my mother died, I couldn't remember a couple of things, and I started to laugh. Finally, I just started laughing. It was like, Joy, you know these things. You know this is a symptom. But it happened to me the same as it happens to everybody else. Even though I knew that, it was still happening to me. So those are some of the things that happen. Behavioral things. Do things that you never did before. Some people take on characteristics of their loved ones. Have you done anything like that? Some people do. Some people do different things, you know, they shop a lot, or they are constantly going out of the house, or they're doing things like that they didn't used to do. They don't want to be in the house. Those are some behavioral symptoms that might change as you started grieving. So those things are all symptoms of grief. Lots of people have all of them, some people have none of them. Doesn't mean anything, it all means you're still normal. Most people come to things like this because of their sadness. They're lonely, they're sad, and they want it to stop. Grief doesn't stop. It slows down. You will feel grief probably forever. Not to the intensity that you may be feeling now, but you will finally adapt, is what we want to do when we're grieving. The goal is to adapt it into your life. It doesn't end. Grief never ends. It's going to be here forever. It sparks up when you least expect it. The song on the radio, somebody walking by, a store, a smell, anything can set it off. And years later, it still happens. So know that it doesn't end. I wish it did. But you don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's at different times. I don't know how long it's been for many of you people. How many people it's been maybe 3 months since your loved one died? 3 months or thereabouts? 2 months? Okay. This year? Everybody this year? Okay. Last year? Okay. So 2 years.
Both this year and last year.
Okay, so you've had loss both times. Okay. A lot of times second year grief is a lot different than first year grief. Some people think it's harder. It's just different. It's not so much that it's harder, it's different. It's reality. We start off with grieving with being in a fog. Right after the funeral, we really don't know what we're doing. We just go about our day and do whatever it is that we're doing. Don't even think, don't even feel. People are still calling you. How are you doing? What can I do? Things like that, stopping by, you're getting cards in the mail. And then all of a sudden that kind of drifts off and now you're alone. This year is exceptionally difficult because of COVID, where you could have had a lot of support. You may have next to nothing. You're not having face-to-face support. Funerals are totally different. Everything seems to be slower. You don't have that human contact, which I think everybody needs, especially while you're grieving. You can't have that hug. You know, that's important. You see people, you give them a hug. That feels good. Now you're shy of doing that. So the COVID's caused a lot of depression in people that have had their loved one die a couple years ago, 3 years ago. They don't have that support group that they may have found. So all these things play into how you grieve, the amount of time it's been. What was your relationship? Was this a parent, a spouse, a child, a friend? How many people for a spouse? Child? Parent? Okay. A friend? Okay. All those things matter. That also, so when you think about somebody dying, if it is your parent, that is the person you have known the absolute longest. They have known you the longest, you've known them the longest, you have a special relationship with that parent. Your spouse, that's the person probably that you are the absolute closest with. That person there, you tell everything to. One person once told me, they said, you know, I think it's harder when you lose a spouse because that's a person you chose. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose your family members. You chose your spouse for specific reasons. And so she really felt that that made it harder because that was her choice. So your relationship to that person makes it extremely hard. Now, another thing that comes into play on that is how close were you attached to that person? Was it somebody that you were really close with, that you felt that you saw on a daily basis, that you were close, you talked about all the time? Or did you have a little bit of a distant relationship? Doesn't mean that you're going to have any less loss, it's just a little bit different loss. So you can still, lose somebody and them not be near and still have all the grief symptoms. Very hard, very hard. So those relationships matter. You lost a child, that child was somebody that was part of you. Somebody that dies as a child, even if it's an adult child, that's not the nature of things. Usually it's the parent that dies before the child. As parents, we think we're supposed to take care of them. It is our job to do that. So when we lose a child, it's devastating in a lot of ways. How somebody dies. Was it a long death? Sudden death? Was it somebody that was sick? Was it an accident? Was it a tragic death? All that comes into play. How many people had deaths that were from an illness, a long illness or an extended illness? Okay? All right, what about sudden deaths? Okay, so some people will say, well, you know what? A sudden death is harder than somebody who's been ill. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's hard no matter what. There's different adapting skills that happen. When someone is sick, you may have in the back of your mind, know that this person is going to die soon, so you start preparing, you start grieving before they're gone. In a sudden death, that doesn't happen. All of a sudden, they're gone. So you didn't have a chance to get their computer passwords or know what to do or how to fix something. Sometimes if somebody is sick, they'll give you all that stuff. They can help prepare you. But in a sudden death, that doesn't happen. So there's a big shock as to how to move on. What do I do? What do I do when you get up and that person's not there to ask anymore? Taking care of somebody in a sudden illness, in an illness that is hard work. You're a caregiver. Every day you are doing something, even though you're watching this person deteriorate, it becomes your job. When that person's gone, you not only lose them, you've lost your job. Now what? So now you're trying to figure that out. So the one way is not better than another. There is no good way. You're grieving because of your loss. So it does matter how they die. It might be a different way. It might be different than a different way. What's your support system like? Do you have people that are supportive, that helps you through your grief? Do you have people you can call? Matters. Do you reach out? Do they reach out to you? You can't always expect them to reach out to you. People who haven't lost somebody significant don't realize how long the grief process takes. They don't realize that in a month you're not better. They don't realize that 6 months down the road that you still are trying to figure out life. So they kind of drop off. So you need those people that are there for you even months, years later. What are your coping skills like? How did you cope with other things that were hard? How did you cope with the things in the past that maybe have been tragic or things that you had to figure out a way to do? Those skills come into play when you're grieving. You will learn how to do things because of what your past experience is. Some people are active and they do. Some people will go out and start organizations and things that will help. I had a family that lost their adult son from pain medication. He overdosed on pain medication. The mom, 2 different grieving styles. The mom cried. She didn't do much else but cry. That's what she did. I saw her for a long time, and that's what she did. The dad decided he was going to figure out a way to get the drugstores all to be on the same page so that if somebody got a prescription here, they couldn't go to Walgreens and CVS, and they couldn't rotate pharmacies. That was his goal. That was his mission. That's how he was dealing with grief. He was a doer. She was not. It's not any different. It's okay. It's okay. You know, and you have to respect, if you're in a household with other people, you have to respect their styles and how they are handling it. It may not be yours, but you have to respect them. So your support system, the way of coping, all that matters, who it was, and all that. So let's talk a little bit. Oftentimes people want to know about depression. Seems to be a big thing. You know, you have sadness, you have all these things. Am I really depressed? Do I need to be medicated? Well, you know what? There's a lot of different things between the two of them, and a couple of those really matter. Usually, if you are depressed because of grief and your sadness, it's because of a certain event. It's a cause of an event. You lost your loved one. That's why. If you have depression, there's lots of things that played into it. It isn't one event, it's every event, or lots of events. When you're grieving, you're depressed, but you have hope that you're going to come out of it. That's your goal. You have a goal to come out of it. You want to be better. You just can't right now. A depressed person, they don't have that hope that you have. So there's a few differences that matter. With depression, it kind of settles over your whole life. With grief, it goes up and down. There are certain times where you may be happy. You may be enjoying yourself somewhere. That's not a bad thing. So there's a couple of different things. So if you're going to try to make a new life, which everybody wants to do, that's your goal, even though you may not feel like it right now, but you're here, so you're figuring, I need to do something. So how is it? Like I say, grief doesn't end. We adapt it to our life. We learn to live with our loss. So how do we do some of those things? All right, so first off, if you are depressed or you think you are depressed, you're going to want to have that checked out. You're going to want to see a doctor about that. And if you are depressed and the doctor wants to put you on medication, give it a try. It's not going to take away your grief. You will still grieve. It may not be to the extent that you are now, but you still will grieve. It's not going to make it better. Nothing makes it that great, because this is how you feel. You've lived with your loved one a long time, or you've been in their life a long time. Sometimes people will say, how long does grief last? And I'll say, how long did you know that person? Give it at least that time. And then you begin to understand that. All right, so you're going to treat the depression. You're also going to find things that are self-soothing skills. Can you do yoga? Do you like to do art? Do you like music? Pick some of those things and do some of those things when you're struggling. Things that you enjoy. Honor your loved one. Make a scrapbook. Spend some time with that. Remember, they not only died, but they lived. They had a lot of life. And sometimes at this point, we spend so much time focusing on how they died, why they died, and those things that we're forgetting all the years that they lived and all the good parts of their lives. We're spending all the time thinking about their death. So it's time to figure out what were the good things. Find some things that you're grateful for. What is it that you're grateful for? I mean, Thanksgiving's coming up, you know, the time of feeling grateful. Sometimes you don't feel like there's anything to feel grateful for. And if you can find one thing, you know, be it I got to sleep in, or geez, I had something for lunch that I really liked. You know, that might be your only thing today. That's all right. You know, do you have other family members? Yeah. Do you have to tell them that you're grateful? Not all the time. You know, and it's important that you know what you feel grateful for. And sometimes you have to make a list. I tell people, make a list, leave it out, add to the list, so that when you are feeling really down, go back to that list and look at it and say, oh yeah, that's right. I have this, I have that. Spend some time, if you can. It's hard now with COVID, but is there some way you can volunteer? Is there some way you can help somebody else? You can help somebody else, makes you feel a lot better. Makes you feel like you're useful. Because especially if you've been a caregiver for a while, You're feeling really useless. What do I do all day? I used to have to schedule doctor's appointments. I used to have to do all this. Now I don't have that. But if you can help somebody else, the joy you'll feel in that really matters. You know, like I say, it may be harder now with COVID, but if there's something you can do, it's worth it. You know, try some of those things. It's valuable. I was listening to a lecture. I listen to a lot of things online, and lately I've been listening to more than I've been reading because I'm finding some valuable information. And the person that was speaking said you need people who are doers in your life, people that help you with the task, filling out the insurance papers, changing your addresses, or taking your spouse off the mail, or whatever it is. You need those people that can help you with that. People that will rake your lawn, cut your grass, go to the store for you, things like that. You need those people in your life. You also need listeners. You need people that can just listen to you. They don't have to give you advice. You're not looking for advice. You just want to be able to say to them, this is what happened, this is how I feel about it, and they're not going to judge you. You need those people in your life. And those people may not be the people you expected. They may be somebody totally different. Sometimes the people that we think are going to be the most supportive are not. And you might find somebody else who is. So those are people that you need in your life. Then you need somebody or some people who provide respite for you. They're the person that takes you out for dinner, takes you to the park, does something that's enjoyable. So you need that person in your life too that says, all right, come on, no, you're going. We're going to go over here and walk the dog, or whatever it is, because you can't go too many places with COVID. But you need that person that's going to take you away from that grief for a little bit, because you need respite. You have to have that. So if you have those people in your life, look for them. Look for them so you can spend time with them. They're valuable people. So you want all the support you can get. If you need a support group, attend a support group. They're not as bad as you think they are. A lot of people think, I can't go there. I can't go there and talk about my grief. You know what? You don't have to. Sometimes you can just go and listen. And that's okay too. So think about doing something like that. So you want to honor them. You have the support. You're going to use coping skills that you've learned. And the goal of this is so that you can develop a new life. You want to be able to grow. You want to reinvest in your life, and you're trying to figure out a way. What is it that, how are you going to do all those things? What is it that how are you going to grow? What do you mean grow? How am I going to grow? You know, you can grow in a lot of different ways. You can grow spiritually, you know, talk to God, get invested in that. You start to think about what your life means. What's important in your life? Relationships, you pick and choose. I find people that will tell me that, you know, they've stopped being around friends that were hurtful or said hurtful things or not caring. And they spend more time with the people that are supportive, more time with their family, because they know time is precious. Now time is precious. You don't know what's going to happen any minute of any day, especially those that have a sudden loss. Anything can happen, anything. So you want to be able to use that and realize what's really important to you. So those things, you develop a different character. You become a different person. Anybody feel that they're a little bit different than what they were before their loved one died? Yeah, you're a whole different person. Your friends will say, you know, God, I can't wait till you're back to normal. Can't wait till I'm back to normal. I'm not going to be normal. This is normal. You know, it's a new normal. Your whole life has changed. A death in your life affects every aspect of your life, everything you do, from getting up in the morning and making the coffee. Now, if you lived with somebody who made your coffee and they're not there, it matters. Everything matters. You got to carry out the garbage now. I never carried out the garbage. I never had to get gas in my car. Now I got to do all these things. So not only did you lose them, you lost all that. So all these things that make meaning, you know, you have to figure out what you're going to do with that. Find those friends that will help you do those things. You don't want the person that said, oh, get over it. You don't want them in your life. So you're going to pick the positive relationships in your life and develop them. That is giving you meaning in your life. You know, like I said, you change. Your characteristics change some. A lot of things change. So you want to make them as much as you can. You can try to develop as much as you can. Personal growth. Take some class. Now you can take online classes. You can take classes in a building. Learn something new. You know, play the guitar, play the piano, learn to sew. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can learn to do. And it might even give you a chance to laugh at yourself because you won't know what you're doing and get frustrated and then just laugh because you're doing something you never thought. I had a lady that I worked with and her husband died, and about a year later she came to me and she said, "Guess what I did?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "I'm taking ballroom classes." She said, "I always wanted to dance." "Do you have to have a partner?" She said, "Oh, no, they got people." You just go. Now she does ballroom competitions. She's an older woman, you know, but she always wanted to do it, so now's a good time. You know, learn a new skill. You get invested in that. It gives you something to think about. You have to try to figure things out. So learning a new skill, no matter what it is a good thing. So you want to be able to do that, to invest in your life. Everybody in the room want to move on, want to, you know, stay with us and move on? Yeah. Is it moving on so much? No, it's moving forward. I don't like to say moving on because it feels as though you're leaving everybody behind. You know, you're not leaving your loved one behind. You have a relationship with them. You still have a relationship with them, a different type of relationship. Anybody talk to their loved one now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you go by a picture or whatever, and you may talk to them. Not unusual. Some people have a picture on the table, dining room table, sit across from them. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Most people do. Some people yell at them. You know, "Why didn't you tell me what to do? How come this broke? Why didn't we get that fixed? What am I supposed to do about that? You know, how come you're not here?" So you get angry. You can talk to them. It's no big deal. That's a good thing. You know, so you want to be able to do those things. And that helps you to move forward. Move forward is better than saying move on. To me, I mean, move on might be okay with you, but move forward is, to me, a better expression. And like I said, it's going to be with you forever. I was quite young, probably about 10, I guess, when my aunt died. She happened to die on my birthday. My birthday's Christmas Eve. So the reason for joy. Every year on Christmas Eve, now, if she died when I was 10, it's a lot of years later, every year on Christmas Eve, there is some part of that day that I remember her. I get intensely sad. We were very close for about 10 minutes, and then I'm done. So you know, I still feel it, so I still grieve, but not like I did, you know. But so as time goes on, some of these things soften. And as you start to reinvest in life, some of your emotions do soften. It's not that you're not going to feel them. You will feel it. They maybe won't be as intense. They maybe won't be as long. But you'll still feel them. I'd love to tell you you're not going to, and tomorrow you're going to be great. It's not going to happen like that. You know, you'll notice it little by little. And so just you have to remember that. Think about friendships. You know, we said develop positive friendships. Look for people that might be similar to you. Are there other people that you know that have lost their loved one? They may be able to relate to you better. You know, you may be able to have that relationship with them. If you've lost your spouse, there's a whole bunch of people out there that have lost their spouse. Do they need somebody to have dinner with? Yeah, probably. You know, nobody wants to eat alone. So, you know, invite them out. Have dinner with them. You may or may not talk about your loved ones. You know, but you have something in common. They can go at any time. They can go at 5, they can go at 9, they can go at 5 o'clock in the morning. They can go anytime. You know, so it's hard because if the rest of the world has their spouse and you don't, you're the third wheel. and it makes it harder. So when you develop some relationships with people that you have things in common with, and a loss, it helps. You have somebody to talk to. You lost a parent. I know that when I lost my parents, none of my friends even understood. They said, I don't know how you did it. They were both sick. I took care of them. And my girlfriends used to say, I don't know how you do it. What are your choices? You didn't have any choices. Were they my first option for friends? Not really. I found more people that had suffered a loss of some sort and gravitated more to them because they understood where I was coming from. They didn't understand on Mother's Day that that was hurtful to me, that I didn't have anywhere to go but the cemetery. You know, for them, they were all talking about Mother's Day dinners. So when you find people that are similar circumstance, you have more in common. You develop new friendships. It's very good to have all those friendships. You learn new things. They teach you different things because we're always trying to grow. We're growing whether we're grieving or not. We're always looking for new things, or should be. So those are things that we want to do to reinvest in life. So how long does that take? As long as you want it to take. I'm not saying tomorrow get up and you're going to do all these things. You have to do it on your own time. You know, I think that when people start thinking about doing something, that's a step in the right direction. If you're starting to think about it, you will do it. When my mother died, I don't sew, but my mother was a fantastic sewer. And she, years ago, had taught me how to make a quilt. She didn't make quilts, she made clothes. So after she died, I decided I was going to make a quilt. I had no idea what I was doing, but I finally made a quilt. You know, so I took those skills and tried to develop it. It was great. Did it look great? No, but I did something, you know, I planned it all out for like probably 2 months beforehand. It was like, geez, I think I'll make a quilt. I kept talking about it, but I already had a plan. So it was going on in my head what I was going to do. So I knew I was reinvesting because I was going to do this. And eventually I got to the store. I bought the material. I started that. I got the material and it sat for a while until I decided to do something. But little by little, I was reinvesting in my life. I forgot to mention something else you need in your life is structure. You want to get up pretty close to the same time every day, go to bed about the same time. You want to have goals during the day, maybe make a list of something you want to do, a couple of things you want to do. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do. Sometimes there's things on there that you'd like to do. If you get it accomplished, you feel great. If you don't get accomplished, you feel, what happened? I didn't do it. You know what? You can do it tomorrow. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but if you put it on there, it's a goal. You're going to try to get to it. If you don't, it's okay. Do it again and try it again tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to come and you can do it again. But at least you have an agenda. You have a path of what that day is going to look like. And if every day is kind of gets you in a routine, you know, it's a good thing. Some people I've noticed tell me that they are up later. They start staying up later. And then they're getting up later in the morning. It's pretty common that you stay up late. Why? I don't know. You just do. You know, is there anything different on TV or anything different that you're doing? Probably not. It's just that's the habit that you got into. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Nobody says what time you have to go to bed. You make that. What works for you. But keeping some sort of structure. You know, if every Tuesday you go to the grocery store or whatever, just so you have a plan. You know, maybe Monday is you know, this place, or Tuesday is this. That's what you want to do. So keep some sort of structure. If you have the opportunity, talk to someone every day. Talk to someone, either by phone, face to face. If you're going to the store, you know, you're checking out, you're talking to the person at the checkout. You know, call your family, or have your family call you. You know, call them one time, they call you. Just make sure that, you know, you have some sort of personal contact. You need that. You need that contact. And it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out conversation, and it doesn't have to be anything about your grief. It doesn't have to be about anything. It can be, gee, the weather sure is nice today. You know, just so you have that contact. Helps you to reinvest. There's hope. You know, we're coming up to the holidays. So Holidays are very strenuous for people, very stressful. They're stressful before you have a loss, even more stressful after you do. You know, people start thinking, oh, before Halloween, about the holidays and what they're going to do. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? It's going to be a horrible holiday. How am I going to manage to get through it? And if you've been through a holiday or an anniversary or a birthday, you'll know that you can. Usually the anticipation of that day is much harder than the day itself. And I often tell people, what is the worst thing that could happen on that day? What is the worst thing? That you could sit and cry all day? Would that be the worst thing? Is that all that bad? No, that's okay. And you know what? If other people see you cry, is that the worst thing? No. And there's a good chance that a bunch of people that you're going to be with around those holidays are also feeling the way you are, or feeling close to the way you are. It's okay. You can spend some time at those holidays talking about your loved ones. You know, make it fun. Talk about how your mom hated the way you did this, or, you know, oh, darn, I burned the turkey. They would have hated that. How come I have to make the turkey? They always made it, you know, or whatever it is that's special in your family. If you talk about that and incorporate that into your conversations, as you should be doing on a regular basis, you know, but around the holidays, even do it more. More people are thinking about that. Bring up the fact of the holiday and what you used to do. Some people change up the holidays, some people don't. Some people want to keep it the same, some people want to change it. This year may be different for all families with COVID. But if not, you know, you need to make that decision. And don't let other people push you into what they want you to do. This is your choice. So pick on what you want to do and tell them, this is what I would like to do. Now, will they agree to it? Maybe, maybe not, but stand your ground. Stand your ground. You're the one suffering. Let them know that you're suffering, and this is what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. I always tell everybody, if you're going somewhere, drive your own car, so that if you want to leave, you can. You know, sometimes things get overwhelming, and you just say, you know what, I got to go. But if you ride with somebody, you feel obligated to stay till they're ready. You know, so try to do things that work for you. You know, having a loss in your life is extremely hard. Every day it's like walking through mud. Everything you're doing. You try to do, as you're grieving, you have these moments of sadness and horrible emotions, but then you have to get up and make the bed, or you have to take the garbage out, or you have to do this. And then you go back and you're sad again, or you're feeling useless and life has no meaning, and you're in that state. But at the same time, you still have to take your kids to school, or you have to go to work. So you're going back and forth. So you're trying to adapt from the day your loved one dies. You are adapting to this. Is it easy? Not by any long shot. Is it possible? Yeah. I think it's possible for everybody. Do you have to force yourself a lot of times? Yeah. Do you have to do it every day? No. There are days when you get up and you're just saying, you know what, I can't do this today. I'm just going to stay in bed. Try to stay in bed all day. It doesn't work out all that great. It sounds good. It doesn't happen to many people. I had a gentleman who told me that the first 3 or 4 months his wife died, he sat by the window and all he did is look out the window. He said, I don't know what I saw, I don't know what I did, I just sat there. That's okay. And then all of a sudden he said, I can't sit here anymore. And then he got moving. And that's all right, because there's going to be days like that when you don't feel like doing anything. There's going to be times like that. A woman told me once, she said, all I have to do is get through a minute. Then I have to get through several minutes. I have to get through an hour. Then I have to get through a day. And she said, that's how I look at it. I can do anything for a minute. I can do anything for an hour. And she said, that's how I got through the worst times. She said, then I knew I could do that. So then the next day I would say the same thing. And I would begin to move on. And she did. Forward on. She moved. She understood that, you know, this is the way it is. A lot of people have, you know, I have an hour or less than that to talk to to you guys. There are so many things that come into play in grief, and so many questions a lot of people have that come up. And, you know, you're thinking in your head, I'm probably the only person thinking this. Nobody else would think of this. No. There's a good chance that everybody in the room is probably thinking the same thing as you, or has a question about something. And so just know that you are normal in what you're feeling. That it is okay for you to be crying 1 minute and happy the next. It is okay to have all those range of emotions. There are so many emotions that come into grief and life in general that it's okay to have all of them. Again, there are some emotions people don't like. You don't like the anger. I shouldn't be angry at them. But you know what? It's okay to be angry at them. It's what do you do with that emotion? How do you handle those things? You know, you want to make sure it's a positive way that you're doing things, not negative. You know, you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to hurt anybody else. And while I'm on that, I might as well just say that sometimes when we're talking about self-soothing, when I was talking about self-soothing and stuff, be careful. Some people go into drinking. It's self-soothing. You know, it might make them feel better. No, not a good choice. You know, so you got to make sure that you choose healthy things. So, you know, you have anger. It's okay. Yell, scream, write a letter. You know, take that picture and look at them and just yell at them. It's okay to do all those things. You're not hurting them and you're not hurting you. Express that anger. You have to be able to express some emotion sometimes. Do you want to do it in front of other people? That's up to you. But express it. It's okay. You know, we talk a lot about guilt. A lot of people feel guilty. Something happened and somehow it brings it back to it was your fault. My best advice is to listen to yourself and think, at the time, you did the best thing you could at the time. Do you know some different things now? Maybe. But there's a good chance everybody in this room did not intentionally hurt their loved one. I can almost bet on that. That whatever happened, it was not on purpose by you. You did not cause this. So, you know, relieve some of that guilt. It's not good. We talk a lot about the difference between guilt and regret. There are things you can regret, but you don't have to feel guilty about. You can regret not doing something, but that is because you didn't know. It isn't that you knew and you just chose not to do it anyway. That would be guilt. Regret is just not knowing to do it. So, you know, there's a lot of emotions, and a lot of people talk more about the emotional things than they do about anything because they're lonely. You know, what do you do about that loneliness? It's starting to get dark now. It gets dark really early. What are you going to do with that time? You know, use the phone. You know, they've been doing Zoom calls. Zoom your family. Talk to them. Zoom your girlfriend. I had one lady that told me that she had a group of girls that they did Zoom game night. You know, so figure out a way, you know, but don't be afraid to call them. A lot of times people will wait and say, well, nobody's calling me. Well, the phone works both ways. When you're lonely or you're sad or you need some support, you call that person that is the listener, you know, call the person that is the respite person for you. Let them help you out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Right now you may need that help, but as you start adapting, and your life starts to move forward, you're out there a little bit more. It feels a little better. Don't be scared that you're feeling better. Don't feel bad that you're feeling better. This is what you want. You want to be able to have a life. You don't want to always feel like you're grieving. You want to be reinvested in life. There's lots of things out there. Lots of things that are ahead for you. It's what are they? You have to figure it out. Lots of ways. But don't be afraid to ask for support. Look for the positives. Try to be grateful. And I know you're thinking, yeah, what do I have to be grateful for? Look for the positives. You're not in my shoes. You don't know what it's like. I don't know exactly what it's like because I am not in your shoes. But I do know some of the things that work for other people. And they can probably help you. And it's, you know, like I say, it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every minute. You can have your bad days. Nobody says you can't. But know that somewhere down the line, you're going to want to be more invested in life. You're going to want to be a different person, because you're already a different person, but you're going to want to be a different person than you are even now. You know, you're not going to be that person when friends are like, God, I wish you'd get over it and get back to normal. No, not going to happen. So who is it you want to be? Pretty much remake yourself now. Do whatever you want. So with that, I'm going to leave you and ask if you have any questions. Anybody have any questions? Anything you want to talk about specifically? We can talk about whatever you like. Nobody has any questions? You all have the questions, you just don't want to ask. I know how that goes. You know.
I answered a lot of questions.
I answered a lot of questions for you? Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad. I hope the best question was that you're normal. Because I hear a lot of people kind of, you know, I thought I was crazy. You know? People talk about when is it time to get rid of their loved ones' things. Anybody have those issues? Yeah. Yeah, they're a big question. That's something that I can tell you almost every meeting comes up, is I didn't get rid of them or I got rid of them. And what do I do with them? I'll tell you this story, and I tell it in all my grief groups, and you know, people hear it more and more times. When I first started in my grief group, there was a lady there. I did it as an intern, so there was another counselor in the room. And this woman had been there for a while, and somebody asked about clothes and stuff, and she said, well, she said, years ago I went over to my aunt's house, and my uncle had died a while before, and I went in her house, and she had all his stuff was still in the closets. And she said, I looked and I said, she must be crazy. And this was before she lost her husband now. And she said, she must be crazy. And she said, so my goal is 7 years. She said, that was 7 years after her husband died. She said, so I figured out I have a 7-year rule. I have 7 years before I'm crazy. So just know that if you don't do that today, or if you have done it, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can keep everything. You don't have to keep anything. You can try to give it away. Now it's a little bit hard. Not everybody's taking clothes and stuff. You can do it however you want. If you want to keep that, it's fine. Oftentimes I find people that will keep clothes and not touch anything for a while. And what happens is all of a sudden they need that space. So they kind of like move it over to a different spot, and then, you know, little by little it starts going. You know, but don't let anybody tell you that you have to get rid of it or that you're crazy for keeping it. It's up to you. It's totally up to you what you want to do. Lots of changes happen. You know, what do you do with this stuff now? What do you keep? What do you don't keep? People, do you move? A lot of people are, do I move? This house is too big. Should I move? No, I don't know. You know, you read a lot. Don't make any rash decisions, major decisions. I have some people that do. They will move fairly soon, and they don't want to be in the big house. A lot of times it has to do with the size of the house. It isn't so much the memories that are there. Know that if you do move, you're taking your memories with you. You're not leaving them at that house. They're still coming with you, so you are still going to have those memories. So, you know, but when you move, it's totally up to you. I recommend you not move right away, but I'm not saying that it's a horrible thing to do. Moving is something, if it's not a good move, then you move again, you know. So there's, as we all know, there's not too many things that are final. Death is, but moving isn't. You can always repair that. So, you know, you guys know the worst thing that could happen. Your loved one died. That's the worst thing that can happen from here on, is how to make it better. How to make it better. How do you adapt to that? All right, any questions? I covered the clothes, I covered the moving, covered some of the emotions. You know, so just know that it's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be anywhere in between. You know, like I said, just no harmful emotions. If you have the emotion, don't act on a harm. You know, you don't want to harm yourself, you don't want to harm anybody else. Not to say you can't scream and holler, you know, or if you see somebody in the car next to you screaming and hollering, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to get out through their grief, their anger period. It's okay. Sometimes we don't even know that we're angry until we're at the stoplight yelling at the light that it's took too long. We don't even know what that anger's from. You know, sometimes it's okay to be angry at your loved one. You know, maybe they left you here. They left you here to pick up all these pieces. Why'd you do that to me? And now I have all this stuff I have to do. You know, that's okay. It's okay. So I hope that I gave you some help. It's hard to get everything in a little bit of time, but I'm just, you know, want to be able to help you as much as I can with anything that you need. So, and I've come out and talked to the Stevens ministers before, so that was always nice to know that you have that. Be sure to use that. Those are very helpful people. You know, you start out with somebody that you're talking to that may share some of the same experiences as you, and oftentimes you end up as friends. So that's important.
Thank you, Joy. We appreciate all your information. And she did bring some flyers that are out on the table you can grab as you leave on grief, and some are about the holidays.
Yep,
So
there's something about the holidays.
please take
'cause
those.
I know the holidays is a stressful time, so there's a few handouts out there. Some are grief, some are...
And we also have some care notes on the wall on the church on this side when you go outside, right across from Bethany, and there are different topics, and there are some on grief there, so feel free to take
Those are really
those.
nice,
And
too.
you can always call us in the office if there's anything else we can help you with, or if you'd like to, you know, set you up with the Stephen minister.
Yep,
So-
Karen, you can always share my phone number or email
Sure.
address if somebody needs, you know, a few minutes.
Okay, yep,
No
so if you'd
problem
like
with
that, we could get that too.
Yeah, not a problem.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Do you have anything? Now's your chance. I can turn the mic off even. So feel free to stick around if you want and ask. And thank you for having me. I appreciate